Morning, everyone.
Good morning, morning.
Well, Mishna is Kesubos, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishna Daled, Mishna 4. Okay. Besula, a woman who is assumed to be a virgin, but she is Almana, Gerusha V'Chalutza Min Anasuim. But she's a widow, or divorced, or she received Chalitza from her brother-in-law after Nisuin, meaning even after the chuppah. After the chuppah, meaning the marriage was completed, but she was widowed, divorced, chalitza was done on her, and now she's going to go out and marry somebody else. What status does she have? Is she a virgin or not? Whether ksuba be 200 zuz or 100 zuz. The Mishnah says ksubas and mana. The ksuba is only 100. Ve'elam tainas pesulim, and by the next marriage there is no claim regarding the fact that she was not a virgin. So the case is like this. It's a very interesting kind of case. The Mishnah calls her a basula. The Mishnah says she's a virgin. But she was married, but she was an almana. We're calling her a widow, let's say, after Nisuin, after the chuppah. If it's after the chuppah and they could have lived as husband and wife, then what do it mean she's a basula? What means she's a virgin? We should assume she's not a virgin. So the case here is where the chuppah was done and the man died before it was possible for them to have cohabited. He dies at the wedding. They had a chuppah, and after the chuppah, the guy died. The guy dropped. Or shortly after the chuppah, the guy decided to divorce her. Or whatever it may be. At the end of the day, we're talking about a case where we know she's a virgin. She's still a virgin. She could not have cohabited with her husband. Nonetheless, if she already reached a stage of nisuin, she already reached a second stage of marriage, that there already was a chuppah, and that she already could have lived with her husband as husband and wife, at that point she loses her status of a psula. She loses her status of a virgin. And the practical application of that is, when she gets married next, she will not receive 200 zuz like a virgin does in her ksuba, nor can her husband come back and claim she's not a basula? I thought she was a basula. I only married her because she's a basula. Because at the end of the day, you married her after Nisuin. At that point, there is no more of status or claim regarding her virginity. That's the halacha. Even though we know she didn't cohabit. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, she went through Nisuin. That already changes her status. And she is not a basula, and you cannot, so to speak, marry her with the intention that she's only a psula. Because once she reaches a stage of after marriage, that status is gone. Okay, next. Hagiyores v'shavuya v'hashivcha. A woman who converted, or had been taken captive and was ransomed, or a woman that was a shivcha, she was a Gentile maidservant, she was a slave. Sheniftu, they were redeemed, v'sheniskairu, or they were converted, v'shenishtacharu, or they were freed. Yeseres abanay shalosh shanavim echad. They are older than 3 years old. That's when it happened. After 3 years old, she was converted. Let's say her parents converted her by a beis din. After 3 years old, she was ransomed. After 3 years old, she was freed. At the end of the day, at this point of time, that's already after she's 3 years old, ksubas and mana, when she gets married, her ksuba is only a mana, and again, there is no claim that I married her thinking she was a virgin. Because in these situations where this woman was after the age of 3, in any of these situations that she was before converted, freed, ransomed, the assumption is that she was violated, that something did happen to her, she was violated in some way, some kind of habitation took place with her, and that would have broken her virginal membrane, and after 3 years old, it doesn't come back. And therefore, in these situations, there is no claim, there is no assumption that she is a virgin. Her ksuba when she gets married is 100, and no one can claim I only married her thinking that she was a virgin. Let's now do the next Mishnah. Mishnah Hey. Now, ha'eichel eitzel chamav b'Yehuda shaloi ba'edim. Literally translated means one who eats by his father-in-law in Yehuda, the section of Yisrael known as Yehuda, Judea, shaloi ba'edim, without witnesses. And Yachal Litain Tainas Besulim, he may not claim against her after he marries her that she's not a virgin, because he had gone into he was meyacha with her. He had gone into seclusion with her. So here it is. There was a custom in Yehuda and Judea that by the Erisin, when they made Erisin, they made the first stage of marriage. He gave her a ring. He married her. They used to make a celebration. He used to have a celebration for it. And part of the celebration, during the celebration, there was a point of time the Chassan and Kala actually went into Yichud. They went to seclusion, just themselves. Why? So that they should get a little bit more comfortable with themselves, because there will be a point of time by the wedding night that it's important that they're comfortable with themselves. And therefore, they were secluded. That's what they did. Now, if they were secluded, then we have to strongly consider the possibility that something happened.
Like today?
No.
No.
What do you mean? I don't know if it was as long as that. I don't know. But yeah, but it was a yichud, like they do today after the chuppah. Right. The thing is, though, that yichud is after the chuppah.
Yeah.
This was only after the kedushin.
All right.
And of course, we're talking about in times when kedushin and chuppah and nisuin weren't done together. They were done almost a year apart. But when the erisin was done, they had a celebration, and part of the celebration was that they would kind of go into seclusion, just they themselves, again, to get comfortable with each other. But once that happens, then already he loses his claim against her. Oh, I thought you were a virgin. Because if they were in seclusion, then already, and even if he says, we're being down here in the bottom, even if he says nothing happened, that's not enough. We have to strongly assume, we have strong reason to assume that something happened between them there. And therefore, if after Nisuin, they go to the chuppah, they're together the first night, he comes back the next morning, he says, oh, she's not a psula. He can't claim that. He says, she's not a virgin. I met her only because I thought she was a virgin. You can't claim that, because you know why she's not a virgin? Because we have to suspect strongly that you were the one who made her not a virgin when you went into seclusion with her. So if there are witnesses they didn't do it, there are witnesses they didn't do it. In this case, they didn't go into seclusion. Okay? Then that means we can still assume she's a virgin, because they're not allowed to cohabit with each other after Erisin. It's only when there's seclusion where we have to consider that something happened between them, because they're in seclusion. But if there is no seclusion, and we know there's no seclusion because they're witnesses to the fact, then she still retains her status as a psula. There have to be witnesses to that fact, because in Yehuda and Judea, this was the common practice, that they went into seclusion. And therefore, only if there were witnesses otherwise can she still retain her status as a psula. So that's what the Mishnah reads again. One who eats by his father-in-law in Yehuda. It's after the Erisin. And he eats by him shaloi be'edim, which means that he went to seclusion with his kala, with his fiancée, and there were no witnesses that they didn't do it. And he may not come after the marriage, after the first night, and claim the fact that she's not a basula, that she's not a virgin. Why? That she's sacharima, because he went to seclusion with her then, by his father-in-law, by the Erisin, and we have to strongly suspect that something happened between them, and we wouldn't believe him. Wouldn't believe him if he said otherwise. Next, achas almanas Yisrael, achas almanas Kayin. Whether we're talking about a widow or a divorcee, of a Yisrael or of a Kohen, ksubas and mana. Their ksuba is 100. We already learned that before, right? We already learned it before. An almana, a widow. So, or a grusha, or a divorcee, again, from after Nisuin, from after the chuppah, when they get married next, what is the amount of their ksuba? Amana, 100. Now, what's the new thing here is that we're talking about almanas kayin, the widow of a kayin. The same seems to be some kind of a reason we might have thought that the almana, the widow of a kohen, she gets more. And on that, the Mishnah explains why we might thought that way. Bezdin shal kohanim. The court of Kohanim, which is explained on the bottom to mean every city had its own court, and you had cities where Kohanim dwelt, and they had a basin of Kohanim, a rabbinical court of Kohanim. A rabbinical court of Kohanim, hayugoivin lebesula abemeyozuz. When it came to marrying off a virgin from the Kohanim, they actually would collect 400 zuz for a virgin. The typical amount is 200. Chazal, the sages instituted 200 zuz. And they went as far as to say, no, They asked, they collected more. They demanded more. They commanded 400 zuz. Kohanim are very prestigious people. If you're going to marry the daughter of a Kohen, a Basula of a Kohen, a virgin daughter of a Kohen, there's more to it that you have to invest. And whether we're talking about a Kohen marrying the daughter of a Kohen, whether it's Yisrael, you could say if it's Yisrael marrying the daughter of the Kohen, all right, that makes sense. They're allowing Yisrael to marry a Kohen. But even when a Kohen marries a Kohen, still the amount that was charged for the daughter of the amount that was collected, the amount that was put into Kesuba for the daughter of the Kohen was 400 zuz. That's more than what a virgin from a non-Kohen daughter would get. And that's why we thought that maybe, when she becomes an almana, it doesn't go all the way down to 100. It goes down. That goes down to more. If it starts as a virgin with more, then maybe when she's widowed, maybe it wouldn't be only 100. It would go down. It would be more than 100 because she started off as a virgin with more than 200. Nonetheless, the Mishnah says no. Even though as a virgin she could be receiving 400, when she's a widow, she will only receive 100. And regarding this practice of the Kohanim, that for a virgin they would actually have collected the Ksuba 400 zuz, the sages did not protest what they were doing. Here on the bottom, they bring down from the Erie, the sages did not stop the practice as they were not concerned that it might create jealousy among families. The fact that they're now charging more for the Kohanim, that creates some kind of a jealousy amongst people because they're charging more and people may resent that. Nonetheless, the Chachamim were not concerned with that because they are Kohanim. Everybody understood that the Kohanim were of a much higher lineage and more prestigious, and therefore it was understood that in their Ksuba, there was more that would be collected for a Ksuba, for a Psula, for a virgin. Now, Chofetz Chaim, if let's say some kind of damage came to a person in their business, he doesn't know why. I don't know what a harenda is, but it's some kind of a business or a position that the local mayor or governor, gave you permission to do, meaning it was like something that it's like a government position of sorts, or a government thing that, or something you can only do with permission or license from the government. The sila kaisay asar, and all of a sudden the officer said, "You're out. You're done." He lost that source of income. Now he doesn't know why. He doesn't know if somebody informed on him, made up some kind of story about him, informed on him in some way. Or for some reason, the official decided just to let him go. He may not go suspecting another Jew of actually causing him to lose his job. Unless he has some kind of strong evidence, then that will be a different story. But if there is no evidence, as he says, you cannot go ahead and start suspecting another Jew that he informed that somehow or another he said something to the official to have you lose the job. We do not assume that a person is a rasha. We don't assume that a person would do such an act of wickedness to cause you to lose your job. And therefore, you may not know why, but you cannot start assuming that a fellow Jew broke his status of being a kosher Jew, of not being a wicked, an evil person, and therefore you cannot go ahead and even suspect somebody like that. And that is when the Torah says, you shall judge your friend with justice, that means you have to assume tzedek, you have to assume righteousness on his part, unless it's proven otherwise. And even if he heard that this fellow Jew caused him the damage, nonetheless, you may only keep it in mind. You may take it in mind as some kind of precautionary measure that you may somehow or another use to protect yourself, but not in any way to actually believe it as the truth. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.